There was always that unknown element. In fact, I remember when I was interviewed for the job by George Jenner, he said, "Well, I just got to tell you that this is not your average squadron," which, you know, didn't need to be said. But he went on to say that, you know, we don't know everything we'd like to know about these airplanes, and as good as our maintenance is, we're going to have surprises, and there's an element of risk if you decide to come fly these things. We sort of trust the ejection seats, but, you know, luckily we haven't had to really try them. But yeah, it was that element of risk. But I guess also, you know, I was a single guy at the time. I didn't care. To me, that was one big adventure. That was the allure. I go, well, yeah, I don't give a shit. Because, you know, it's kind of like big sky theory, right? You go, it'll never happen to me. And I think it's kind of mindset I went into it, you know, with going, hey, I've done all this other shit. I've flown F4s, a bunch of them, air to ground, air to air, F5s. I go, you know, I'm sure we both come close to getting killed at times, of the times we knew about. I'm sure there's other times we had no idea. You know, you were about to get mid-air, and no one ever saw the other guy. So, in fact, it's also, sometimes people ask me, you know, what's close you ever got to being killed? And I go, I mean, you mean the times I knew about, right?
Tower Tower is release you, runway 4 left, 040 at 5, clear for takeoff.
Seats high, altimeter 0 eyes, we're clear for takeoff, clear for the airspace. Viper check 2.
My burn rep curve was at 354. So yeah, that's on. Next, picture 16, 15,000. I'll give you some of that.
Viper 1 target.
Z-Matt, thanks for joining me on the podcast. Happy to have you on here. Excited to talk about your career and some of the things you've done. So thanks for taking the time today and joining me on the podcast.
You're welcome, Ryan. Good to be here.
So I always kind of like to kick it off, usually chronological order, but I think today, you know, I really want to dig into, you're writing a book right now. Can you tell me a little bit about what your book is about? Maybe we'll peel back the onion there.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Actually, it's a project I started years ago. I'm embarrassed to say how long ago it was I started, but the book is basically, it's a long time. You can tell I'm a procrastinator. But I started quite a long time ago because I had this idea that, you know, I was obviously in a pretty unique squadron, you know, flying MiGs, very top secret program at the time, probably one of the best kept Cold War secrets we ever had. Anyway, that being the case, I thought, yeah, it would be nice if somebody who was actually on the inside and flew in the squadron for 3 years, in my case, a little over 3 years, actually told the story of what it was like. So that's really, in a nutshell, what the story is about. Is obviously there's some lead up to getting there and then a little epilogue afterwards and what the value of the program was for, you know, tactical fighter pilots and stuff like that. So that's really what it's about. And there's a lot of humor in it because you haven't been in squadrons, you know that maybe only 2% of the time you're up there flying and fighting and pulling G's. The rest of the time you're at the squadron doing stuff, and there's a little grab ass here and there, practical jokes. And when you have a hand-picked group of pilots like that that are secluded and basically 130 miles away from Nellis, and no one gets out without you, no one gets in without you knowing it, you got some time to do some stuff. So I'll let it go there.
Yeah, well, I do appreciate you sharing a couple of the chapters of the book because before we hit record, excited when that comes out, which I think there's still a little bit of time before that happens. But when I, reading the few chapters you sent over, for me, it was really cool because I could feel like I'm sitting inside the MiG going out there to fight. So I'm excited to see the full book when it comes out and get a chance to read that. But talk to me a little bit about how did your time in the Red Eagles begin? What was that path to starting flying MiGs?
Well, I guess it'd be easy or simple to say that there's not one easy pathway to become a Red Eagle. In fact, if you tried to map it out, probably wouldn't work, because it's such an opportune experience that right place, right time. Obviously, you had to have some skill and had to have some credentials punched. But as a young lieutenant flying Phantoms, I got a Phantom right out of pilot training, a second lieutenant. F-16s weren't even around by that time. They were just starting to get made, but I don't think they came down for a couple of years yet. Eagles were maybe they were few and far between. Not every class, even then, were getting Eagles. My class didn't get it. But so my second choice was Phantom, and as soon as they called my name, I rang the bell and bar and thought everybody else Happer and pig and shit. But so a couple tours in the Phantom, young lieutenant over in PACAF, Kadena before they got switched over to the Eagle, and then I left from there, went up to Osan, flew F4Es. Actually, happened to be our last air superiority F4E squadron in Air Force, sitting alert up there, not far from the DMZ, and so that was all good experience. Strangely enough, I share this once in a while with people, and they kind of shake their head, being incredulous that I would do this. But I was offered a shot to go to fighter weapons school in the F4. I turned it down. I go, nah, I think I'd rather be an aggressor. I remember my weapons officer, who happened to be my flight commander, looked at me like I had a third hole in my head. I'm like, well, what are you talking about? You're gonna turn that down? I go, yeah, I really want to be an aggressor because as much as I love the Phantom, I knew that its days were numbered, and I wanted to get really in an air-to-air, and so I said, yeah, I want to be an aggressor. So I thought I burned a bridge. I called the aggressor commander down at Clark, which was not easy to do back then. We didn't have SATCOM and all the other good stuff. So got a hold of him. He knew who I was. He asked me how much time I had, my experience, and he says, okay, we'll take you. And so I go, great. So long story short, went on to be an aggressor, went back to Nellis, checked out in the F5, back to Clark as an aggressor. And then while I was there, again, right place, right time, happened to be back on Christmas leave, back in the States, happened to go through Nellis thinking that, I'll probably leave Clark, go back to Nellis, get back to one of the squadrons there. And while I was there, I just happened to have an opportunity. Somebody ran into me and said, what are you doing here at Nellis? And I kind of told them I was just there on holiday leave. And they go, hey, your name's come up over here at the Red Eagles as a possible hire. And I looked at him like he was crazy. I go, you're talking to Rob Zettel here. You sure you're talking to the right guy? Me? And he says, yeah. So I went and got an interview the following day with the commander, who I didn't know, nor the ops officer. There's only a couple of guys in the whole squadron I happen to know that had been aggressors when I went through training. And it was about a 35, 40-minute interview. Again, I think I was the only guy in that whole squadron with blues on, because I was asked to show up in blues. I just happened to have them. So you can imagine I stuck out like a sore thumb. And these guys had just got back.
Messing with you?
Well, no. Well, I don't know if they were. If they did a good job. But I showed up in all these Red Eagles that just got, again, I only knew a couple of them. The rest of the guys had just got back from Tonopah after flying that day. And they're all in green bags. They're looking at me like, who the fuck is this guy? And
right.
Anyway, I remember leaving there, and I remember the last words of George Jenin. He said, okay, thanks a lot, Z-Man. Don't call us. We'll call you. So I walked out thinking, okay, well, I won't get the job, but at least they know who I am when I come back to Nellis in 8-10 months. Maybe there'll be a shot down the road. So kind of a long way to get to your question, but 6-7 months later, I'm coming in from a sortie. I'd gone out and done a 1v2 against a pair of F4s in the 3rd Squadron, actually 90th Squadron out of Clark. And I walk in, and the guy sitting at duty says, hey, Z-Man, when you get done with your debrief, the DO just called, and he wants to see you in his office. Of course, you and I both know that anytime you hear that, it's like having a squad car behind you, right? With the lights going, you're thinking, oh, man,
what did I do?
What the fuck did I do? Yeah. Well, it turned out I didn't do anything, and he saw the look of exasperation on my face, and he goes, no, I think this might be good news. I think this is has something to do with that assignment you said you interviewed with. And I looked at him. I go, hey, don't be fucking with me here. I go, that's serious shit. Yeah. He goes, no, I'm serious. So anyway, finished my brief, hour and a half later with the F4s, went down to the DO's office, told the secretary, here I am. And I get called in about 10 minutes later and salute properly and report in. And the DO, great guy, Chuck Holden, who's since passed away, awesome guy. He's in his flight suit. He's laying back in his lazy boy-like chair. His boots are up on his desk. He's got a cigarette hanging from one side of his mouth. And he's holding up a piece of paper, and he goes, Z-Man, how the fuck did you get this job? And so I said to him, I go, well, what job is that? And, he kind of says, hey, stand at ease. And he stands up, shakes my hand. He says, you just got one of the best assignments going. And he says, congratulations. I got a letter here from the commanding officer of the Red Eagle saying you're going to be one of them. So that's how I got there. And so I still had like 3-4 months to fly at Clark before I transferred. And I remember Browse, that was his call sign, Chuck Holden Browse. He said, okay, Z-Man, see you at the bar later on. You're buying. Oh, by the way, don't fuck up your last 3 months. And off I went. And I show up at Nellis in September of 83. I know I was really going to date myself, but that was good. And then a little over 3 years later, December of 86, I take my last flight. And 3 days later, I'm in F-15 school at Luke. So, that's how my career went. But probably three of the best years. Well, they were three, my best 3 years as a fighter pilot in the Air Force. And I wouldn't trade it for a thing. It was just the people I got to work with, and we can dive into some of those, but all handpicked, as you can imagine. I only had about 20 pilots in the whole squadron. 16 of us, plus or minus a couple. 16 were Air Force, and the other 4 were 3 Navy, 1 Marine Corps. And that was because it was a joint DoD program. The Navy wanted in on it, so they had three pilots there all the time and 1 Marine Corps. And to be selected, to even be considered, you had to be either an aggressor graduate, Air Force Fighter Weapons School grad, or you had to be a Top Gun grad. Okay. So, needless to say, pretty good company to be in. And yeah, it was great. Some, I'll throw out some names later on, and people will look at that and go, "Man, those guys were legends," and it was great. So
yeah, you definitely
again, I pinched myself. I wonder, well, how the f- did I get there? But I did. And it was a great time.
No, that's impressive. Obviously the cadre that's in there, this time frame, 1983. So it's, correct me if I'm wrong, it's about 4 years into the Red Eagle program. Now, exploiting MiGs, that had been going on for a little bit of time, but I want to talk about what the Red Eagles, actually dig into how it started, what it is. But before we do that, when you showed up, obviously your DO tells you, hey, you're going to the Red Eagles. In this time period, had a lot of pilots gone through and fought the Red Eagles, like when they go out to Red Flag, and then I assume they peel off for a day or two and get a chance to go fight a MiG-21, et cetera? Or was it still only a few guys in each squadron get read into the program, they go up there and fight, or was it pretty, I guess, prolific at that time period?
It was starting to ramp up. I would say probably about a year, maybe a year and a half before I got there. It started ramping up pretty good. The early years were, I would say, I don't think it's a bad characterization. I think it's safe to say they were plagued by some maintenance issues with the airplanes. Early MiG-17s, early 21s, 23s for sure had some issues, and they didn't have that many of them. And so it wasn't uncommon to be scheduled, for instance, when I was going through aggressor school, scheduled to go up and fly against it, and all of a sudden you find out, hey, you got scrubbed because the airplane's down or whatever. So it didn't really hit mainstream till probably, I would say, second half of 82, definitely in 83, and then through 86. I've got some statistics that it will be in a book that just shows you how many exposures we did year to year, and you can see incrementally more and more pilots, active duty, whether they're fighter web school guys going through the FWIC, line pilots, whether it be F-16s, F-15s, sometimes F-4s, not very many later on. And of course, the Navy came over whenever they're doing workups to go to the boat. They'd typically deploy into Fallon, then they come down and fly with us, for a week. Same thing with the Marines. So you started seeing that ramp up more and more. So luckily, I was there, I would say probably 3 of the best years they had. I left in late 86, almost 87, and they were really only in existence for after I left, about another 15 months, and they closed down. Yeah.
Okay. Tell me about the genesis. Where did the Red Eagles, where did that come from? What is it? What was the primary mission set of the squadron?
Well, the primary mission, as you can imagine, was to expose the line fighter pilot to actual MiGs, actual frontline aircraft. And at that time, MiG-21, again, over 10,000 of these airplanes built worldwide and exported to over 36 different countries. So that no matter where you would go, whether you be an F-16, Tomcat, Eagle guy, more than likely you're going to run into one somewhere. And then, another 5,000 MiG-23s. And again, this being right in the middle of the 80s, there's some MiG-29s around, and a flanker had just come out a little bit before, but the crux of it, especially in the Middle East, were going to be MiG-21s, MiG-23s. So the idea being, hey, let's go ahead and let the people see an actual thing. We had done Top Gun, Red Flag, The Aggressors, things like that. But a gentleman by the name of Gale Peck, who was a major at the time, was working up in the Pentagon, and his idea with a few other crafty fighter pilots who were all F-4 weapon school guys, they said, we've got these airplanes, a handful of them that we've used during things like have drill, have donut, have idea, something like that, have pad. Why can't we get our hands on those and make a real squadron of these things? So that was kind of the genesis of the idea. And of course, like anything, a lot of people poo-poo the idea thinking, that'll never happen. Well, it did. And, they laid out a plan. Hey, let's put it up someplace remote for security reasons. And then it just kind of took off from there. And once they started getting money for the program, it's like anything. You just, throw some money at it, it'll start growing. And that's what they did. And in concert with that, it was actually the perfect setup because in short order, along comes the F-117. The F-117 needed a place to work out of, so they go, hey, this is great. We'll put the 117 at the north end of the airfield. And so when I show up in the fall of 83, there is just construction going like crazy. Brand new hangars, brand new facilities, dining halls, you name it. It's like a whole new airfield being built. Because really, in essence, it was. And so that's the idea. So you got a lot of money, heart of the Reagan years. It's going crazy, and we're getting airplanes left and right. Well, I shouldn't say left and right. We when I got there, we had a good number of MiG-21s, pretty good number of MiG-23s. And then I'll probably get a little bit ahead of myself, but we started getting some brand new MiG-21s. Brand new. Well, they really weren't MiG-21s. They were Chinese F-7s. But they looked just like the MiG-21. They flew just like the MiG-21. A little bit different. The only way you could tell them apart is, how their canopy hinged. But in essence, the same airplane. And, getting ahead of myself. But I went out to an airplane one day. It had 3.5 hours on it.
Wow. That's incredible.
3.5.
Reading about it, all the different HAV programs that you mentioned, like HAV Donut, there's like 12. It seemed like there's like 15 different programs that went on going at various times to basically lead up into the Red Eagles were exploiting various MiGs. But I was reading too, like the airfield, as you mentioned. It was just a runway with like a cul-de-sac at the end so they could turn around.
Yeah.
But I read too, like, was it true? It's like the F-117 showing up, so that's dumping more money into Tonopah. But then like the DOE, Department of Energy, kind of pitched to them like, hey, this is your project too, because they were doing stuff out there. And then they dump even more money to kind of build up this whole infrastructure. And you weren't living out there. Everyone was commuting into and out of, correct?
Yeah, we had those of us who were Red Eagles, we had a great deal because our typical flying week up there would be Tuesday through Friday. Monday, because we were gone so much during the week, plus we had to in-brief all the new squadrons coming in over the weekend. We did everything back at Nellis, at home, security briefings, in-briefing, F-16 squadrons, F-15s, whatever it was. We did all that briefing and stuff. All that stuff happened on Monday. So with that out of the way, Tuesday through Friday, we would fly up to Tonopah, do our mass briefing, go and fly our 2 goes, a morning go, afternoon go, and then fly back home to debrief whoever we flew against. And so we did that 4 days in a row. So that being said, we never, well, unless you really wanted to, you could stay overnight there at Tonopah. We did. I did occasionally. But the 117 guys that went up on Monday, they came home on Friday. So they had to stay. They were really gone the whole week. But we would come back and, finish our debrief, go to the club, do whatever you're going to do around Las Vegas, so it was a good deal. And you go to the club on Wednesday, Friday nights and, set your hair on fire and push it up. And so, but that's what it was. So again, to kind of get back to the program was to go ahead and expose line fighter pilots, whether it be Navy, Air Force, Marine, to a credible MiG, probably flown by the best MiG driver they were going to run up against. And we knew we couldn't, we would typically start off like a 2v2 intercept. If two Vipers are going to come up and fight against us, we'd launch out as soon as we knew that they were passing like Indian Springs, GCI would say, okay, go ahead and launch. These guys will be coming in south of Beatty here any moment. So we'd launch out and we'd be at the north end of the Nellis Ranges in Area 71 and fights on, 40-mile setup. And we'd go ahead and give them some type of Soviet tactic, high-low pincer, trail, whatever it might be, just to get them kind of mindset. And they didn't always know what they were going to go up against. Was it going to be two MiG-21s? Was it going to be a Flogger and a MiG-21, mixed bag, whatever it was? And then we'd show that and we'd see how they handle that. And, obviously for the air-to-air guys, even for Vipers, Tomcats, you usually didn't have too much trouble, although occasionally they'd plumber the intercept and one of us would sneak in. But as soon as we got to the merge, we did a 180, we'd knock it off and then we'd split up into twos. And I'd take one Bandit or one Viper North with me in the range 71, for instance. The other guy would go to 76. We go at our discrete frequency, and then we just go, okay, join up on me. I'm now the mission commander of the IP, and we would run them through if they'd never seen it, if it was their first day up there, we'd say, okay, join up on me, and we'd do something we called a performance profile. And it was their one opportunity to really just, okay, no fighting going on. It's just, this is your first opportunity to see a MiG-21, MiG-23 up close, and I'd get a tally ho on them. I'd start a left-hand, right-hand turn, or whatever it was, and say, okay, just come up the wing line, just join on me and get into a loose fingertip and take a good look at my airplane. And you could almost see their eyes getting big behind their oxygen masks. They joined up. Here's a MiG-21. They go, God, it's tiny. But yet there's a big red star in the tail. And all they can see of me is about here on up, maybe the top of my shoulders, and that's it. And but as much as visibility in MiG-21 would be maligned, in the big scheme of things, unless you're having to look straight ahead and down, it wasn't that big of a deal because it's so agile. You just turn a little bit and you go, well, I can see pretty much anything I need to. But if somebody got camped at your 6, yeah, it was tough to see them, but you could break real quickly. Anyway, so that was what it was. And then so they do a pair performance profile day one. We do some turns, some acceleration maneuvers to say and be like, okay, line abreast. Okay, at my count, 3, 2, 1, both select afterburners, 1G level flight. Let's just see who can accelerate. And we would do that, and they'd find out, damn, that thing really moves. And they really got their eyes watered when they saw the MiG-23 because it would just flat out leave them. Really? Even at 111, it would just take off. And we get down with that. We do some hard turns, and if we had a lot of fuel, we'd maybe give them one quick setup in a hard turn, and then we usually fuel limited. We head back to base. And then the following days, days 2, 3, and 4 for them, they come up. We do the tactical intercepts. We give them a different look this time, maybe a different mix of bandits. And then what we do is say, okay, break up again, 1v1. I'm MiG-21. You're in whatever you're flying. And I'd say we're going to have an offensive and a defensive setup. You're going to be on offense first, and then we'll switch, and then I'll go on offense on you. So we give them, a typical 9,000-foot setup. As soon as you're 9,000 feet, call it, fights on, no holds barred, go for it. Rules of the road, ROE applies, but, don't hit me, I won't hit you, and don't hit the ground. And it was no limitations. So we flew that Bandit really hard. And again, if I tell people, you ever find a MiG-21 that flies that well, you better bug out because that guy's he's gonna be a boatload of trouble. Because we knew those airplanes. I flew MiG-21 for a little over 2 years, had almost 350 sorties in it. And
were you dual qualified, or did you fly MiG-21, MiG-23, bounce back and forth, or was it, hey, you're a MiG-21 guy?
Yeah, you're a MiG-21 guy, and then later on, some of us, not everybody, went and flew the MiG-23. Some guys absolutely didn't want to fly the MiG-23, but I thought, God, you got an opportunity to fly it. Why wouldn't you? So, I mean, it wasn't as much fun, but in its own right, it was a real challenging airplane, and it was uh, demanding. And you had to be on your toes when you max performed the MiG-23 because it didn't have the stability or the agility the MiG-21 did. So when I'm sure the Russians were pissed when they thought, okay, hey, we're going to get this new airplane. It's going to be like the MiG-23, MiG-21, and it wasn't anything like the MiG-21, you know. But it was the fastest airplane I ever flew. But that's really all you could do. It was more of an interceptor than a fighter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the checkout program. You alluded to already, like the ergonomics with not a big deal unless the guy is parked to your 6 o'clock, being able to just roll up and look. But having sat, in a static display of it, like Western Pilot, it seems like the ergonomics of it would be quite challenging. So talk to me about the checkout, what that was like, some of the ergonomic differences, challenges that go along with that.
The cockpit, just like you said, you come out of a Viper, you jump in a MiG-21, you think you're going back to Stone Age. I mean, there's just stuff all over the place. And so, I had just come out of the F5 as the aggressor. I had flown a few different models of the F4 before, but it was still a challenge initially. And our cockpits, whether it be the MiG-23 or the MiG-21, were stock Soviet Russian airplanes, with the exception of we would put a U.S. altimeter into it that we're all familiar with, an airspeed indicator, knots versus kilometers. We still kept that stuff, but we had our own. We put a UHF radio in it that made sense, transponder, and I think that was it. I think oxygen pressurization system. Everything else is pretty much stock, and obviously a hookup for the G suit. Everything else stock, and all the pressure gauges, stuff like that, were in centigrade or in cubic square centimeters for kilograms. For measuring your oil pressure. So, again, it's all relative. It's in the green band. It's in the green band. I don't care if it's PSI or cubic centimeters. Right. Who cares?
That's so true. If it's green, it's good. I guess along those lines, the maintenance aspect of it, I don't know how much you can talk about this, but to me, it's like, all right, hey, we're going to put an airspeed indicator on it. We're going to put a pneumatic system or tie off the pneumatic system to hook up our G suit hose, those type things. Can you talk to me about the maintenance aspect and what it took to get these things flying?
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up that question because the unsung heroes of the whole program were our maintenance guys. As you can imagine, you're getting these airplanes, and there's some other stories I get into, which will be in the book, of these guys going abroad to really some distant corners of the world and getting airplanes, putting them on C5s and flying them back secretly to Tonopah or the Area 51, get them out, putting them together with almost no guidance. I mean, almost no logbooks, no tech manuals, no shop cards, all that kind of stuff. So they did it was a Herculean task for them. And they absolutely never ceased to amaze you at every turn. I mean, whatever they ran up against, when you think, this airplane's toast, it won't fly, they always came up with an answer. It was amazing, I don't know how they did it. In saying this, getting a little bit ahead of the book, if there's one aspect that I'm really working hard right now to kind of fill in is I didn't have enough interaction with our maintenance guys, and I wish I had. I wish I had just gone down to them. We were so busy that oftentimes we didn't have time, but I wish one afternoon I'd just say, hey, can I come down here and just watch how you do this? Whether it's change an engine, do this, swap out an ejection seat, because it was amazing. I remember first day out, I was up there with George Jenner, the commander. He said, after our morning briefing was over, he goes, okay, Zettel, come with me. We jump in his Jeep and we go down to the MiG-21 hangar, followed by the MiG-23 hangar, and the doors are opening as these guys are getting ready to, pull planes out of the barn. And I get out of the Jeep, and as we walk into this hangar, there are 2 rows of MiG-21s, just wingtip to wingtip. I mean, there had to be 12 or 14 MiG-21s there, all with red stars on the tail, all different paint camouflage schemes. And I looked at it and I'm going, oh my God, I'm really here. It just blew your mind. And there are some airplanes, half torn apart. The back half of the boat tails off because they're pulling an engine, or this one's canopy's off and they're pulling an ejection seat. And I mean, they're just all over the place. And so, yeah, it's really, my hat's off to those guys. And one of the things I'm doing, I was just out in Vegas here a couple of months ago interviewing a couple of our maintenance troops who I knew pretty well. And I said, hey, I really need to sit down with you guys and get as a small take as I can out of a very big story, just to make sure we don't lose it. We're all getting older. And a lot of these guys, they're late 70s, some are early 80s. And some of these guys are there from almost like day one. And I'm going out there again next month to really talk to another guy and kind of get that down. So my plan is to have a whole chapter just dedicated to those guys and just a few of the things they did. And one of the more interesting stories is, which heretofore that none of them really wanted, to their credit, because I think they're a little suspect, is never really wanted to sit down and talk with anybody and really tell their story, because they're always a little guarded. What's your motive? Why do you want to ask me this? I don't trust you, so no, I'm not going to do it. Well, luckily, I think I've earned their trust over the last few years, being at some of the reunions. And anyway, so yeah, I'm going to get that, and that's. I think you will find that. I want to ruin it, so there's some pretty neat shit there that they did. And you go, holy, that's incredible. No, I won't tell you what the story is, but when I was at a reunion about a year and a half ago, I asked a couple of guys as we were at a bar. It was just myself and a bunch of these maintenance guys. I go, I always want to ask one of you guys this. No one, I've never heard it. So I asked the question, and like 2-3 guys go, oh yeah, I was there. I was on an airplane. We went and got these airplanes and we pulled them on and we flew them back. We landed in the middle of the night. We had to orbit for 4 hours until it was in the middle of the night so we could land at Tonopah to offload these airplanes. And the C-5, we broke down here, we broke down there. We couldn't let customs get on. They wanted to get, it's about if you and I were sitting at a bar, it's about a 3-beer story. But it's just, it'd be one of the best, well spent 3 beers you ever bought.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear about that. That's the piece to me, the reverse engineering, the ingenuity that had to go into it, because again, it's not like you're going to the bookstore picking off a tech manual on how this Russian motor works. They're having to figure it out, and they probably have. Envision a container full of spare parts that someone has acquired some random spot in the world, and now trying to figure out how to make these things fly. And then I guess too, I can appreciate, just the secrecy that went in to this. I mean, they had to have everyone, probably the fear of God read into them that, if you ever tell anyone about this, you're going to federal prison and you'll never see the light of day again. It wasn't until recently in the last decade or so, right? This is all kind of declassified, but I can appreciate it. That's some pretty wild stuff.
It is. And you can imagine the stories. And yeah, that's why I say it's probably one of the best and well-kept secrets we had during the Cold War. Because I remember just a little snippet here, unrelated, just talking to a neighbor one evening. Actually, I'm home, and a buddy of mine calls up and he says, hey, Z-Man, are you home? I'll go, yeah, why? He says, I've got a gal here, my neighbor, and she used to be in Air Force intelligence, and she was a linguist over in West Berlin, yada, yada, yada. And I told her that you flew MiGs, and she raised the bullshit flag. She goes, there's no way. And so I want to know if you're home. We're coming over. We're going to crack a couple whiskeys, and you're going to show her some shit. So I said, come on over. So, I showed her, and I have got, all kinds of stuff, scale models and junk like that. Told her stories, and she was just gab-smacked. She goes, how did I not know about this? I go, no one knew about it. Unless you had a need to know. You didn't know. Yeah. And that's a credit to, because, over the years, we actually expose, I don't know what the exact number is. I'm going to somewhere around a couple thousand pilots to the program. And best of my knowledge, it never leaked out. Never
Yeah,
leaked out. No one ever told their wives, girlfriends, or whatever. I just, so you didn't. It was great.
yeah, that's the kind of the beginning when I was wondering, when you're flying that time period, it's obviously a few years into this program being established and you're exposing more and more pilots to it. So the fact that it was kept secret all these years, it wasn't just, hey, we're picking, 2 guys in the squadron. It's the weapons officer and, another senior IP. I mean, you're exposing a vast number of the guys and gals in the squadron.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty, it's impressive. I mean, it's just impressive. Like, just think of acquiring these jets from all over the world, getting them back, putting them back together again. I mean, that's an amazing feat of strength to begin with, let alone go out there and actually employ and train and fight the way that enemy fights.
It was great, so we would do this, sometimes you weren't flying as much as you wanted to because maybe the airplane was down or something. That was particularly true when I went to the MiG-23. It wasn't, it was a harder airplane to keep up. I'm trying to think of a good analogy, but, it's, the complexity level went up 3-4 times from that of MiG-21. You got one big motor and you've got all this other shit going on, not to mention you got swing wing, variable geometry stuff going on there. And I think I might have shared with you one of the chapters on a hydraulic emergency. Did I send that to you?
You did, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so stuff like that, and every now and then you'd run into an emergency that no one else had ever had, and that was the case. Won't ruin it for the viewers, but you run into a compound hydraulic emergency like that, and you go, you're that close to losing the airplane, but for a little bit of luck and maybe some nerves of steel, you get the airplane back and on the ground. And had that happened on the ground before I took off, it would have been a non-event, or right after I'd landed, or had it happened maybe a few 10 seconds later, I'd failed to get the wings full forward. Yeah, I would have been punching out rather than landing at Tonopah. But so there was always that unknown element. In fact, I remember when I was interviewed for the job by George Jenin, he said, "Well, I just got to tell you that this is not your average squadron," which didn't need to be said. But he went on to say that we don't know everything we'd like to know about these airplanes, and as good as our maintenance is, we're going to have surprises, and there's an element of risk if you decide to come fly these things. We sort of trust the ejection seats, but luckily we haven't had to really try them. So there was that. Then right before I got there, about a year and a half before I arrived, they had a fatality. One of the guys got killed, Mark Postai, who I knew. He had actually one of the guys that briefed me as an aggressor, back when I went through aggressor school. He got killed in MiG-23. And if your viewers want to read a great book, read Red Eagles by Steve Davies, which is the best book out there on it. And Steve, a good friend of mine, he did a credible job on it. So, and he kind of documents all that. But so there's that kind of stuff. And then it didn't take too long. When you're up there, you'd see other things. They weren't serious. No one punched out while I was there. I think they had a couple bailouts or punch outs, ejections after I had left. I told them everything went to shit after I left there, but it was. Yeah, that's right. Good help's hard to find, but it was that element of risk. But I guess also, I was a single guy at the time. I didn't care. To me, that was one big adventure. That was the allure. I go, well, yeah, I don't give a shit, because it's kind of like big sky theory, right? You go, it'll never happen to me, and I think it's kind of the mindset I went into it, with going, hey, I've done all this other shit. I've flown F4s, a bunch of them, air to ground, air to air, F5s. I go, I'm sure we both come close to getting killed at times, of the times we knew about. I'm sure there's other times we had no idea. You're about to get midair, and no one ever saw the other guy. So, in fact, it's also, sometimes people ask me, what's close you ever got to being killed? And I go, I mean, you mean the times I knew about, right? And
Yeah, right.
so, but yeah, so there's that element. But it's like anything. If you go out to fly, whether you're flying your Viper, an Eagle, Hornet, if you go out there with the mindset that, man, this I'm really worried, fuck, don't even bother. don't don't even bother putting it on. And I think all those are those of us who are in the brother and sisterhood, I guess you could say, flying fighters and flying them at their peak. It just never really enters your mind. It just you compartmentalize and everything is blocked out, and you're just there right now, man, woman, with that machine. You strap it out, you're wearing it. And one of the analogies I have in the book, the whole chapter, is that mindset. And I use the analogy as kind of like, ice skates to a hockey player. You know, Wayne Gretzky, you never have to worry about him coming down ice or coming up ice. And he's not thinking of what his feet are doing. He's just doing the magic with the puck. Same thing for a fighter pilot. Once you get into that visual arena or whatever, if you have to think mechanically, it's too bad. It's all over. You've already lost.
Yep.
So your hands, your fingers, or you're going over your HOTAS, your feet, everything, hands on sticking throttles, rudder pedals. That airplane's part of you. You're wearing it like a glove. And if you've got to think about it, it's too late. You'll never be there. So it's kind of how, I flew the MiG-21, MiG-23 the same way. Had to be a little more cautious with the MiG-23, because that had some nasty departure characteristics. So when you got up there, you go, ooh, got to be a little more wary. I never spun it. I'm sure I came close to parting it, but that's why the Soviets gave you some big AOA gauges up there just to the left of the heads-up display and knuckle wrapper and that kind of thing, which sounds archaic, but I tell you, it works.
It worked, yeah. A knuckle wrapper, I mean, that'd be very effective, I would think.
It really very tactile. It gets your attention. You go, because you're out there looking at this guy and you get knock, knock, knock. You go, ooh, and you glance in. You're right there approaching 26, 27 degrees angle of attack, and you go, one more hard pull, this baby's gone. So yeah.
Simple.
It's all cool.
Talk to me about the training. The Air Force obviously big on a syllabus, right, and have all these syllabi for all the various programs and things like that. I would imagine you probably had some kind of syllabus you went through, but it probably had to be a blend, almost like the Robin Olds days, where you're hopping in the jet, figuring things out. What was the spin up like to get into the jet and then start getting checked out to being an aggressor in MiG-21, MiG-23?
Yeah, great question for your listeners. Is because, well, to start with, we had no simulators. We had no two-seat airplanes. So first hop is your first hop and you're solo and you're out doing it. So the lead up, because of no simulators, we did have a curriculum. It wasn't anything real formal like a B or TX course you'd have, if you go through Luke or something like that. So, but we had it mapped out. We had training manuals as far as at least document what you did. And so I got paired up with my instructor to MiG-21 like day one. And I think I'd been up at Tonopah, maybe have to look it up. I know exactly the day I got there, first day up north, and then first day I flew. I'm going to guess a week, maybe 10 days in between. But You start off with, okay, here's your -1, your flight manual. And the flight manual we had, it was basically, we being Red Eagles, had written those ourselves. We basically had gotten into all the intel data that we could get from either Foreign Technology Division, other flight managers we got from other countries, and we dissected that and basically boiled it down and put it into something we could understand. So, if you open it up, you'd see, okay, aircraft general, aircraft systems, all this stuff. It looked, oh wow, it's just like an F-16 manual, only it's about a MiG-21. So we put it into a format, whether it's a -1 or an ATOPS manual that the Navy would understand, but it looked the same. Emergency procedures, all that. So that was a great thing. Early on, in the early days, they didn't have that. But by the time I got there, they had gotten to it. They were just finishing up. So I had that. So I read that. If there were any accident reports, so we read all those. That was particularly true when we got to the MiG-23 because by that time I had 2 accident reports, one of our own, Mark Postai, who I told you had gotten killed, and then General Bobby Bonds, who I ejected from MiG-23 June of '84. So we had that to go. We go, okay, I'm not going to do that shit. But other than that, it was like, okay, you go out to an airplane, you sit in it, you go through some systems with, my IP was Microy, call sign Mach, and, former F4 guy, aggressor, former Eagle guy. So, a lot of experience by the time he got to the MiG-21. So he used my IP, sat me through, gave me some stuff on the systems. Here's how it works, general flows, start procedure, shut down, go through, spend a bunch of days going through engine procedures, failure, SFO, how's the airplane going to handle, boost system, yada, yada, yada. I won't get into all that, but that's how you did it. You just basically sat in the airplane. He'd sit on the windowsill with you and go, okay, let's do this. Go through here, go through the start procedure, shut down, taxi out this. And that's how you did it. And so you spent about a week and a half going through that kind of structured, if you want to call it, syllabus. Okay. And then came for your first day to go ahead and crank up the real thing. And we had a day, first day was called, this is your taxi day. And taxi day, you're thinking, well, why would that be a big deal? Well, we don't have hydraulic nose gear steering like everyone else does in the Western world. We had the old MiGs, basic pneumatic brakes. And that was, if you could get the airplane to the end of the runway, you were golden, because that was so foreign to us. Okay, if I want to go left, I don't have a button at the bottom of my control grip to just click on it and I can push the rudder and I go left or right. Oh no, you've got so much. I'm trying to remember, it was kind of like crazy. It's like 800 pounds of pressure of pneumatics stored in a bottle. Okay. And if you used it up, you got to call for a towing because you can't make it back. So you didn't want to be that guy that ran out of your pneumatic air that's stored. Later MiGs, they made their own. Novel idea. So, but getting back to it, so the whole idea behind startup taxi day was go through your normal procedures, start the airplane up, go through your normal post-start procedures, and then taxi it out. Taxi down to the end of the runway. See if you can do that. Can you get out of the chocks? Can you get around the tower and out through the fencing and get all the way to the departure end of runway 134 and then taxi all the way back without running out of air? And so you did that. That was the morning. Okay, you did that. Shut down. Go through your post-shutdown procedures. Hadn't popped the drag chute yet, so you go, okay, good. We'll save that for after lunch. Go to lunch. Come back. Okay.
Sorry, with the brakes, is it the rudder pedals you're using for the brakes? Or I read something too, like there's also a brake on the control stick too, or is that different?
No.
That might be a MiG-17.
Well, that is it. Well, yeah, no,
okay.
It's the same on a MiG-21, but what you're doing is, for the listeners and your benefit, if you want your brake handle is at the base of your control stick. So you're having to squeeze it. And when you squeeze it, basically what you're doing is you're metering air pressure to one brake or the other or both. Okay. So for instance, if I want to turn left, I push full left rudder to basically to the bottom is full left depression. And then I gently squeeze this brake handle and that meters air to the left brake. And you kind of, the nose gear is totally castering and you kind of go around the turn and you go, oh shit, I gotta straighten out. So now you let go of the brake and you hear the air go, psh, and then you go, damn, I need to roll out. So you go, damn, I got to put right rudder in and then squeeze it again to bring it back to the right to straighten out. And then you do that and you go, okay, let go. Psh, oh, shit. And then you go, I need to stop straight ahead. So now you got to center them, squeeze it again. So you're doing this, and as you're getting out, the crew chief's looking at you, shaking his head because he hears this psh, 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 psh. and he's thinking, there's no way, just get that truck ready. We're going to have to tow him back. But got all the way down there, got back, and in the afternoon you go through, and they call it the high-speed taxi. Do the same thing, ground up, start up, taxi out. This time you call the tower and go, hey, request high-speed runway run. And they go, okay, MiG, they didn't use the word MiG, Bandit. Bandit, what do you say, 1111, you're cleared for high speed, runway, 16. So you get in position, you go through all your pre-start, pre-takeoff, flaps are at half, you got this, everything's taxiing position, you run it up, you're cleared, and you just let it go. You let go of the brakes, and you just gingerly put that thing into full afterburn. You feel this thing, and it just gives you a kick in the ass. And boom, down the runway you go. You get to about 100 knots, and you go, okay, that's fast enough. So you pull it out of afterburner all the way back to idle, and then you reach over and hit the button for the drag chute. And the drag chute on those models came out. It's kind of weird because you can watch from the ground. You go, that's really fucked up, but it worked. There's a little door on the aft left fuselage. It just basically opens, and this drag chute just kind of falls out, tumbles along the ground a little bit, and all of a sudden, poof, it pulls the thing and it opens up, and it looks like a regular drag chute, and there you go. You can feel it, and okay, great. So you take it and you taxi all the way off the runway and on the infield. Now you're doing psh, psh, the whole time with your brakes. You're going, God damn it! You're looking down at how much air pressure you got, and you go, God, I got 200 psi. I think I can make it back. So you drop your drag chute, and then you taxi back, and you go, God, I think I can make it. So you taxi in, you shut down, pop the canopy, and that's it. And then, so now that's your low speed. Now you're high speed. And the next day, okay, you're getting ready to go do it. So next morning, take off. I think I might have sent you that chapter, which is called Light the Rocket. And basically my recollection, basically was like taking your first flight in MiG-21. And you're not airborne long, but you're doing stuff. And the funny thing about it is you come back to the field, and I've never flown a single engine fighter before, so no time in the Viper. And I'm flying this thing, and I go, yeah, it flies great. And I go, man, this is nice, it's agile. But first time you come back to the field, they go, okay, we're going back to high key. You go, what the fuck, man? I've never had to do this in a twin engine fighter. So you go back to high key, and again, got to remember, I've never even flown this airplane, much less put the gear down. And now I'm going to go to high key. 250 knots over, and I'm like 2 miles up. I mean, no kidding. You're like 12,000 feet AGL. Way up, and you ask for clearance to fly a SFO, and they clear you. And Mike Roy's flying chase in the T-38. He's on the outside of my turn, and now I'm going down doing this thing. High key, make my low key, making all my gates. I think I'm doing good. And you go, you know what? I got no flaps, because that's what you'd really be like. But I know as soon as I put the gear down, like any airplane, man, there's a lot of drag, so you better hope you can make the runway. So you kind of aim for the first third, boom, and, you only take it down so low. So I did that, and probably would have been a landable aircraft. But it's your first hop in the MiG-21, you're going, damn, if I had to do it for real, I guess it'd probably work. But that's your introduction. And after that, you just... you fly a bunch more, and increasingly you do more and more. You do some hard turns, you do some acro maneuvers, you do some loops and Emmelmans and whatever. You just getting a real handle. And having come from the F5, I go, this is a lot like an F5. You go full flaps on the thing, you go in a hard brake turn, it just winds up. It's really tighter than F5, and just flew great, agile. And you come back, and then you start doing some touch and goes and stuff like that, or low approaches, and you come back, land the airplane, and your fifth hop in airplane's your check ride. And the same guy, different guys doing this, giving you a check ride, and he chases you, and you do all the stuff you just did for the last 5 rides, and you come back, and now you're signed off, and okay, you're good to go. And then you go out and you start fighting against F-16s or F-15 weapon school guys, or guys coming up from George or out of El Toro or whoever it is, and you're going for it.
No big deal. I was the MiG-25, 1976, I believe.
Yeah,
defected Japan. Did you guys ever have any experience with previous MiG pilots I imagine go talk to, or like Victor? Because I think Victor, is it Belenko?
Belenko.
He just
passed.
He just passed away.
Yeah.
Was there like any interaction with that or anything that was ever, I guess, source where you could really tap into, the source, if you will?
I never did. And a bunch of other, my contemporaries. I'm sure a lot of us met Victor Blanco along the way. I did early on when I was a brand new lieutenant at Kadena. CIA kind of took him on a tour of all kinds of different fighter squadrons and stuff around the world. But I'm sure there are some people that along the way during briefings or debriefings with him sat down, talked to him about that. But I never did. I don't recall any of our guys talking to certainly no Soviet MiG pilots that I knew of. So of any pilots we may have people had talked to probably would have been foreign air forces, maybe Middle East guys in Egypt, stuff like that. Some of the other North African countries, Middle East countries. A couple of defectors into Israel, stuff like that. But, and then as far as their tactics, but then, talk about some of the early HAV programs, things like that, they run those airplanes out pretty good. We got our hands on early MiG-21 that had been a defection into Israel. I think we got our hands on that in 68 or whatever it was. And so we, flew, I think they only flew that airplane like 100 sorties, maybe a little less, maybe a little more. And that was it. But they had a really good idea what the airplanes were capable of. But as far as tactics, no, we didn't really talk to any that I knew of, any Soviet pilots.
Yeah, I gotta say there's exploitation going on all over the place. Able to probably get a pretty good understanding of how those things work, but just exposing, American pilots to a MiG. Again, I would imagine too, if I just like envision like meeting that at the merge for the first time, even if it is a good guy flying it, it's a different plane, right? It's a plane you've been reading about, studying about. Now all of a sudden you're out there fighting it. So doing that when a good guy's flying it, not your enemy, meeting him at the merge takes away that like, oh shit factor, I would imagine. At least a little bit.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. And, you talked earlier, you asked earlier, the one of the benefits of the program, what was designed to do is not only to show them the airplane, but the benefit of going back down to Nellis every afternoon is, we get down to Squadron, and if you're the guy I flew against earlier in the day, you're going to come with the squadron. You and I are going to sit in front of the dry erase board. We're going to go through, hey, here's what you did really well. Here's what you didn't do so well, but good job on your part. And you did this really great. You really use a vertical well, wherever it might have been. And that's where the real benefit, because now, not only do I know that there was an American, fighter weapons school guy that flew that airplane or former aggressor, but now I get to talk to him just like you and I are doing right now, face to face. And you kind of build a rapport, and then later on you're going to see him at the club, but you're not going to talk about anything you did, but you can have a beer anyway and just talk about stuff that you're doing. But that was probably the essence of the program, was getting that immediate feedback. Yeah.
For you in training, when you got checked out and now you're flying, like anything, the more comfortable you with the jet, you're burning less brain bites. I would imagine on actually flying it, you can kind of focus more on the tactics. How much, time did you spend, prepping to fly the MiG like a Soviet pilot would fly it? Did you have a specialty as an aggressor? Like, hey, you're studying X, Y, or Z, and you're going to be, the expert in this and go and employing. Like, what was that aggressor mindset?
Yeah, again, another good question, because those of us who came from the aggressors, we had already been doing this. We go on a road show, whether we go to Hill, Shaw, whatever it might be. We're doing the Soviet tactics, the drags, the pincers, high-low stacks, whatever it is. So when it came to employing the airplane, that's what we've been doing in my case, last year and a half as an aggressor at Clark. So we knew that. Now the other guys that came from, say, the 422 that were flying it, or their F-16 weapons school guy that came to the airplane, it didn't take them long to spin up. I mean, how hard is it to do a high-low stack, pincer? But those of us who came from aggressors, we were already flying the formation, pair patrol formations, things like that. So we really knew it. We kind of knew that mindset of what. And so for us to kind of get into character, if you will, It was really quick. And now maybe even more so because now we're the actor wearing the real costume. We're here. We're doing it. We go, God, this is what I imagined it was going to be like. And that worked great until you got to the merge. And after the merge, it's like really not sure how aggressive a Soviet pilot's going to be or a North Korean pilot or whoever. But all I know is I'm an American fighter pilot. And this is what I know. I'm going to show you the best flown MiG. I'm going to show you what it's capable of doing. So whether, the actual adversary would ever fly the airplane that hard, no way of knowing. But that's the only way we could fly. So when you got to that visual arena where you say, okay, 9,000 feet, fights on, I'm going to give you everything I know. And if you can defeat it, you're going to kick ass when it comes to day one Desert Storm or whoever else it might have been, And that's pretty much what happened. Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about, I'm spoiled, right? The GE gods and the Pratt and Whitney gods, idle max, those motors can hang with it. I think engine technology, a huge delineator between air forces and capabilities as far as what you can do. We have some of the best. Doing something like going to max AB and then ripping the jet to idle. Like, were there engine challenges? I know the challenges are already to begin with because, again, they're having to rebuild all these planes. But did you have to be gentle with these planes? Were there any concerns when it came to that?
The only gentleness, and in a word, yes, and I'll kind of put a caveat on that, because they're older technology, especially the MiG-21, from flight idle to flight afterburn, that was a pretty long time. Full after, it was probably a good 13 to 15 seconds to go from idle all the way up there. It's quite a while. There's a lag. Remember, you went through T-37s, right? Or remember, did you?
I did. I had T6s, but I flew in them. I know you put the speed brakes out, right? Because the spool up. Yeah. So I know where you're going with it.
The thrust attenuators, because it was a slow spool up, right? Well, kind of the same thing. It took a long time for that thing to, you go from flight idle up to Excel just to full mil power. That was a good 8 to 11 seconds. So, for instance, when I talked about doing a low approach or a go around out of an SFO, you kind of plan that a little bit ahead of time because it's going to take a while for the engine to spool up. And as you're doing it, you're sinking. Well, but that's just in the pattern. So you're doing things like that. But when you're fighting with the airplane, if I know that, okay, range camped out, he's going to get called fights on at 9,000 feet, I'm already in basically, I can see, I go, he's pretty close. I'm already going to be up at full mil. So, and I'm approaching 400 knots right at about corner velocity. So I'm there. And as soon as you say fights on, I'm going right into afterburner. And it's going to light almost just like that. It's going to take a little bit, but it's not going to take 10, 15 seconds. So I'm right there. So now I'm going to give it to you. And as soon as I may even cheat, if I go, he's going to call it any minute. I'm going to go after her right there and I'm going to go. So, a little less of a time, but when you go to the MiG-23, a little bit better engine. Again, we don't have a DEEK or EEK or anything like that in it, but it was better. It was a quick turbojet. I would say the MiG-23 engine was pretty much just like a GE J79 F4 engine. You can go flight idle, go into it, boom, it's going to go. And but don't try doing that when you're pointing straight up, and MiG-21, which I had plenty of times. I'm pointing straight up, trying to get a snapshot on a Tomcat or whatever it might be, and you're in full afterburn. Don't even think about coming out and going to idle because it's going to cough, spit, stall. So I'm just going to leave it where it is. I'm going to fall down and get some air coming up the nose, and then I'll, modulate the throttle, whatever I need to do. But so I kind of caveat that. Yeah, you had to be a little gentle, but once you're engaged, especially in MiG-21, and probably for the most part MiG-23 too, but especially MiG-21 because we'd really wrap it up and get in the phone booth. Once I got there, I'm not pulling it out because I'm bleeding off so much energy that I can't afford to pull it back. And if I do pull it back, man, it'd have to be something really wild for me to do that because I'm really going to overshoot the sky for some other reason, which I can usually counter with just going, doing a roll around them. A story of there I was with a F-15 fighter weapons school student who first time and the only time I've ever seen anybody depart an F-15. And
Oh,
I
no,
think
I
that
want to
was
hear this.
probably the one time I did pull it out of Afterburn because I go, whoa, shit, hey, recover, knock it off. And he's he's going down. I go, and he goes, no, continue. I go, not in your life. No, 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 knock it off. Eagles aren't supposed to do that. And I flew with the Eagle later on and flew it damn hard. But anyway, so I might have been the only time I can recall. I go, whoa, I don't need all this energy because this guy, even if we were to continue, he was going to he was going to get gunned big time. So, but yeah, so you didn't really pull it out of Afterburner, and because you're just throwing knots overboard big time. You're bleeding off so fast.
Throwing knots overboard, using that where you want to be.
Yeah.
I know you probably got a few harrowing stories. What's something that stands out, pops in your mind, getting close to departing, engine troubles, the hydraulic issue? What's a story that stands out that like, oh, this is not where I want to be right now?
Yeah, it's probably the only old no shit is probably that one with the main hydraulics on the MiG-23. And I'll go back a little bit in doing the research for my book. I've probably interviewed close to 30 former Red Eagles, and to a man, ask him any issues with the MiG-21. Everyone says no, it was great. Never had an emergency, nothing. It was great. You didn't ever even depart in MiG-21. I had a flame out in the MiG-21 once, and that was probably more for my issue because high angle attack and bunting over and just I didn't caveat the fuel pump, but just couldn't keep up with the afterburner. Stalled out and got to relight. Keep going. Just a big deal. Just kind of the mindset. Yeah, it was like, okay. I knew I was the cause of it. I go, damn, yeah, I shouldn't have bun over that much for that long. I should have just rolled off with some pods, man. But the MiG-21, never an issue. MiG-23, yeah, I never had any engine issues with MiG-23. Knock on wood, that was good. But the only one I had was the hydraulic problem. And for the listeners, viewers, MiG-23, to make it real simple, like most airplanes, it's got a primary and a backup. Probably had other things, obviously, hydrazine and stuff like that for flight controls on a Viper. But most any modern airplane, I got your primary main pump, main hydraulic system on the MiG-23, and you had a backup called the boost. And like any systems, the main one, as you can imagine, runs all the big biggest one is your wings. The gear, I can blow that down if I need to, but the wings, man, that's a big daddy. So, but the boost, as you can imagine, if the primary system, the main, shits itself, you got boost, it's going to give you a little bit of stuff, and it'll also get the wings forward if you can. But if you lose that one, you're out. You're punching out. Well, on this particular day, flying an intercept with Gary Craig, call sign Goldie. He was a MiG-21. I was a MiG-23. I was leading it. I'd only been flying the MiG-23. I actually went back and counted my sorties. I've been flying it for about 5 weeks, MiG-23. I think I had a total of 22 sorties in the MiG-23 at the time.
Okay.
And on this particular thing, we're doing a 2v2 against two F-15s, 40-mile setup. And the tactic is we're going to split east-west, high-low. I'm going low to the east. He's going high to the west. I'm going to go down to about 13,000 feet. He's going to about 33,000 feet. He's coming in from high from the west. I'm low from the east. As soon as we split, I take it down, at full afterburn, put the wings all the way back to 72 degrees, and I get a boatload of knots. And GCI's calling them, and at 15 miles, they say, okay, 12 miles, we come back, nose on, and we got about 10 miles separation between Goldie and myself. We're going to have a really nice east-west pincer high-low coming in at these guys, and we're going to choose them do they target individually, take one guy, push one guy east-west, you know it. Well, coming in, just as I'm in this turn, I'm doing about 650 knots. Wings are back at 72. I'm coming in as I'm looking through the top of the canopy in the direction of the threat. Master warning light goes off in the cockpit, catches my eye, And I look in, I go, that's not supposed to be on. So I look down and I'm hauling ass, probably still accelerating as I'm coming around the turn. I look down and immediately you look down to see on the panel, got all these little idiot lights right above on the lower right instrument panel, right above my knee. And there's the one you don't want to see. Well, the one you don't want to see is engine, but the other one you don't want to see is main hydraulic. And that's lit up really bright. I go, oh, shit. And the immediate action is get the wings forward because you don't know if that's gone. If that's gone, all I have left is my boost. And so I call, knock it off, come back in a hard left turn, climb, you trade all this airspeed. I come back to idle, all the way to flight idle on the airplane, on throttle. Just zoom this airplane from 13,000, go up to about 20,000, all in idle, trading 650 knots down to about 250. And I'm doing this in the climb, and as I'm pointing back towards Tonopah as quick as I can, and I immediately just bring the wing sweep lever, which is just outboard of my left leg, put that to 16, and again, because the visibility is so poor in the MiG-23, you really can't see anything past about 4 o'clock to about maybe 8 o'clock. That's being generous.
Yes.
And all you can't see the top of your wings, top of your thing, except for the Soviet designers did, knowing that the visibility is so poor, they put a little periscope right on top of the canopy. And what it would do is you could look up just a real quick glance, and it was kind of a panoramic mirror, and called periscope. But it would show you could see the entire top of your airplane, your tail, you could see your rudder, you could see your elevators, wings. It was great. You can see an F-16's converting behind you, getting small because you're going to take off. But so that's where I looked, because I had no other place to look other than this master warning light and this main hydraulic light. So I look up there, which doesn't take you more than not even a flight in MiG-23 to that becomes second nature, because you got no other place. So I look up there, and what do I see? My left wing root looks like a cotton ball. It's just hydraulic fluid. It's like a little tiny cloud attached to my left wing root. And I look at that and I go, holy shit, what's that? And I go, well, it's got to be my hydraulic fluid. And that's when I look down, and the Russians are really nice. They put this really tiny gauge about as low as you can get in front of the stick. So you got to move the stick to see it. And I see my main hydraulic gauge almost zero. The boost is still there. It's hovering around, I'm trying to think right around 200 kilograms or square centimeters of pressure. It's holding. It's doing okay. It's doing its job. So I go, okay, that's good. And so I go, well, but now I'm just waiting for those wings to come forward. And they're going, when that happens, normal wing sweep is about, in fact, it's uncanny, but it's exactly the same as a 111. It's like 3.1 degrees a second. Some engineer figured that out. But now they're half that amount. They're going about 1.5 degrees a second. And I go, damn, I hope these things. So I'll fast forward, and Goldie, we knock it off. He joins up on me. He looks me over and he says, hey man, your left top of your left fuselage and the bottom is just covered in hydraulic fluid. And I go, well, okay, something I didn't already know. And so that's the closest one. And then, but I knew that, hey, I've got limited time. I need to get on the ground, because if the boost goes, I got to get out of the airplane. And the airplane is squirrely on a good day to fly. And all I have right now is my elevators. MiG-23, for those that don't know, it doesn't have any ailerons. All it has is spoilers. And I've got those because of my boost system. So I've got elevator, no rudder, which wasn't a big deal on the MiG-23, and stabilizers and spoilers. That's it. And got my wings full forward. So I did that. Going to have no flaps, no leading edge flaps or trailing edge flaps. And I got to blow down my gear. I got no brakes. Well, that's not true. I had emergency brakes. And I still got my drag chute. So got that going for me. So
it's a good day.
Good day. Hey, so I'm well ahead, right? So Goldie lands first, because if I go ahead and plumber the landing and I close the runway, he's got no place to go other than the taxiway. So we have him land first. I had, in the meantime, gone through the emergency with the SOF, go over it. Yeah, it's going to call for, okay, kind of do a controllability check at 210 knots because that's going to be my final approach airspeed. So I do, everything's good, fly good. So I do about a 5 mile straight in to land, landed to the south, landing runway 14 at Tonopah. Luckily, there's not any high winds because with all the stuff I don't have, it would have made it really squirrely. So, airspeed on final 210, touchdown at 190, pop the drag chute, pops. I can see it in the my periscope, and I can immediately feel it. So didn't even have to look, but you look anyway because you got nothing else to do. So you look, yeah, it's a good drag chute. And I roll out and hit the emergency brakes, pull them out, and working good. I go, man, I'm slowing down pretty damn good for having touchdown at 190 knots. So touchdown, in fact, it brakes so well that I actually make the early turnoff about 1,500, 2,000 feet from the departure end. I turn off there and take it over to the kind of like a de-arm pad, and there's a whole host of emergency vehicles there to meet me, and taxi in. They tell me shut it down. They chalk me. I open the canopy, and one of the crash recovery guys is there to meet me. In fact, he's one of the guys I interviewed here about a month and a half ago. We started comparing notes, and turned out he was the guy that did it. So I got to actually put a face to a name, and met him, and he's the guy up the ladder, shake my hand, and I tell him, other than hydraulics, pretty good jet. That was it.
Yeah, other than that, it's fine. It's almost code 1. Here's a small detail I'm curious about. So you mentioned master warning and then hydraulic light. Was that hydraulic light in English, or is it Cyrillic? Is it Russian?
No, we'd actually put that one. I think we had changed out a lot of those lights. We had changed out those to English. So I think all it said is main and hydraulic abbreviated. So as I recollect, I think that's what it just main hydraulic.
Yeah, not being an engineer nor a maintainer, even something like that, figuring out that, hey, that light is the hydraulic light, and knowing to switch that out with all the other appropriate ones. Like, maybe someone converted the manual, but to me that's impressive. Those details.
Pretty good. So, no one before, no one since had ever had that failure. And
was it a busted cape or a busted hose?
Well, what it was is, again, there's a whole chapter in the book on this, on the whole episode. But what it was is on the inboard pylons of the wing root, inboard of the movable wing, there was a pylon there, which we never carried captive carry AIM-9s or anything like that, or ATOLs. So we had no use for those after they got done exploiting the airplane. So the electrical umbilical that had been in that pylon, I can only imagine that some years before they just taken this long umbilical and he just jammed it up in one of the access panels and screwed it on and forgot about it. Well, over time, as the wings kept were moving, somewhere that umbilical got caught on something, the wing sweep mechanism. And little by little, over the years, it just kept getting, it's kind of like trying to thread your shoelace through something. It just kept getting pulled until on that day, the final straw was, when I went to sweep that thing to 72, it was right up against 4 hydraulic lines, 2 for the main, 2 for the boost. Had it gone another inch further, my boost would have gone, I would have punched out. But what it did, it got to the 2 main hydraulic lines, which are about the size of your, I'm not doing this purposely, but the size of your middle finger for all your viewers. That's about the size and diameter of this aluminum hydraulic line. One going out to the wing sweep mechanism, one coming in actually to the flaps and stuff. Well, when I went to 72, it just pulled right through that. And about the following day, in fact, the the assistant deputy maintenance officer came in. Um, a guy named Fred Garcia, Jose, came in, and I was sitting in one of the flight rooms at the desk, and he came with two pieces. One was a bracket, and it had those four hydraulic lines, and two of them were just jagged and torn. You can see they had been punctured, and the other two was still there, luckily. And the other thing he threw was that umbilical. It was about the size of your fist. It was pretty good. And that's what had pulled through there. So those two things that was the cause. And like I said earlier, had it happened on the ground when I, put the wings all the way back as part of my pre-taxi check, I would have had a big hydraulic failure right there on the ground. No big deal. Or had it happened when I put the wings back to taxi in after landing, same thing, not a big deal. Just shut down, they'll tow you in. But it happened when I was airborne at the most inopportune time. And again, rather be lucky than good, but had it gone a little bit further and even crimped one of the boost system lines, there's no way I could have gotten the wings full forward. I would have been punching out. So thank my lucky stars that day. Yeah.
No joke. Were the wings moving symmetrically when they're closing because it's running off the boost system? So
yeah,
okay,
yeah, they were.
So I imagine again, mixing asymmetric. Yeah, asymmetric would have been a different story too, probably.
Yeah, asymmetric, you would have been punching out. And the one nice thing up just to my upper right side as I'm looking at it on the instrument panel, actually right above to the right of the combining glass, there's a wing sweep mechanism. It shows you where your wings are and gives you degrees. So you can pretty much tell where your wings are doing. And they're both moving. So even though I couldn't see them, off the side, I could see a little bit out of the periscope, but I could see them on the instrument panel. I could see, okay, hey, they're moving, but man, they're moving slow. Again, I think it's took them a long time to get forward. Mm-hmm.
I guess that hydraulic gauge is hidden because, it's either working or it's not. So you don't really even need it. You don't even need it there, right?
Yeah, there are other things I needed more to look at, like your fuel gauge and, your engine, your tack gauges, engine temperature, things like that. But hydraulic gauge, just like we referenced earlier, hey, if it's in the green, it's in the green. If it's somewhere other, there's going to be a light that's going to come on and tell me about it. So, yeah, it's normal course of flying. I never looked down at this really, other than probably the first couple hops in the airplane when you're looking at everything. Yeah, after a while you go, it's going to tell me if something's effed up. So
that's right.
That's right.
I do want to talk F-15. I do want to talk F-4 things, but before we do that, is there anything I'm missing? Is there a question I should be asking you about the Red Eagles?
No, I think we're hitting all the big ones. Kind of talked about the caliber of the pilot that we had in the squadron. The Navy guys and Marine Corps guys were just, I couldn't say enough good things about them. You think we were handpicked? They were really handpicked. Well, I would say most of those guys, of the people I knew that were there while I was there, almost all of them went on to get a star, if not many stars. And
I'll to know. I think General Carlisle was after you, Hawk Carlisle. He was the 4-star that certified me as a demo pilot. So
was it? Yeah, Hawk got there about 9 months before I left. In fact, interesting you mentioned Hawk. When he was in the, I believe, the 9th Squadron down there at Holloman, as he was a weapons officer, and he'd come up to fight against, I think they had a Red Eagle deployment. Also, I think they're doing some aggressor support, whatever it was. He was up, I think a guy named Sparky Coy had been an aggressor. He was the squadron commander at the time. And I think he had been talking to the Red Eagles about, hey, you need to hire this guy. So Hawk actually came up in a clean, as I recall, clean A model, F-15A. And I fought against him in the MiG-21. And I didn't know him before that. And I just remember having a 1v1 with him, and wasn't necessary because I knew that he's kind of being looked at, screened for maybe a job there. And So rather than the typical 9,000-foot perch setup offensive defense, so I think it was more of a line of press neutral, and let's just go fights on. And we just went around. I think we had 2 engagements. They were just in the phone booth, rolling scissors the whole time, and neither one of us ever got a shot. So I came back, Paco Geisler, who was, you may have recalled that name. If you don't, he's a legend. He said, "How do you do?" I just go, "What do you expect, man? He's shit hot." I go, "We are going to hire him, aren't we?" He goes, "Yeah, it's already a done deal." I go, "Okay, good. He'll be a good one." He was. He came up there, and he was a stellar asset to the squadron. Just a great guy. And in fact, some years ago, we had one of our Red Eagle reunions. We actually had it at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and the banquet was on the floor of the museum. And Hawk, at the time, he was the ACC commander. He was our guest speaker. So, and I've got kind of a side note. There's a funny story about that because along the way, just a few months before I left the Red Eagles, another guy who's a Navy guy went on to be a 3-star admiral, Marty Chanik, street call sign. He goes, "Hey, Z-Man, we need to get two T-38s. We need to go to Miramar for the 2nd annual toga party." You go, "How do we get doing that?" I go, "Hey, no problem." So got the request in. I go, "Who's going with us?" So he said, "Well, it's going to be you, me, and Hawk." Because Hawk grew up in La Jolla. So he goes, "We're going to take Hawk." So we went down, long story short. We didn't have any togas. And it was the best party I've ever been at in any officers club my entire career. It was shit hot. It was just great. So, and this is just a couple of months after the movie Top Gun came out. So you can imagine the hysteria. So we show up, we didn't have any togas. So we're wearing the bed sheets off our visiting officers quarters beds. And they're stamped. This is no kid. I'm not making this up. It said NAS laundry on it. They were stamped all over with like these little things. So we're wearing these things. We got our shades in. So somewhere in there, the story behind the story is I had this picture. It was Streak, myself, Hawk Carlisle, and there's some pretty good looking dollies in togas. We're all surrounded by. And we got sunglasses. Anyway, so I had this great picture, and Hawk is still a young captain at the time. So we go to this reunion, and a couple of guys are running the reunion. They say, "Hey, Hawk's going to be the guest speaker." I go, "Oh man, I got the perfect picture to have flashed up." So I send it to them. They go, "That's awesome. We're going to put that in." I go, "Hawk's going to love it." Well, days before, I go, "Hey, you got that picture?" And they go, "Nah, we decided to take it out. Protocol, maybe we shouldn't have it. He is a 4-star." I go, "You got to be shitting me. Hawk would love that. And his wife would absolutely, his wife, Jillian, she'd absolutely love it." So they didn't show it, but at the reunion, I told them about it, and I had it on my phone. So I showed he and Jillian the picture. I've since sent him a copy of it. And he loved it. And Jillian just went, "Oh, I can't believe they didn't show that." I go, "Weak dicks." Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So anyway, funny story. But yeah, but Hawk was there, But
That's funny.
yeah, great people. So that was the kind of people that they hired there, and so it was good.
That's funny. Yeah. Well, in that time period too, in the Air Force, it was a little touchy. There's a lot of cleaning and cleansing going around. But the show, I guess, too, the thing I've learned in my short time period, right? Like, it's a really small Air Force, really small world and community. And you never know, a student you have 10, 15 years down the road, you're going to be flying beside them, going across the Pacific Ocean or something like that. So always be nice and be professional with those around you. But Hawk, he was my neighbor's roommate in college. The guy who really kind of put me on the path of the Air Force. They were academy roommates, It's just
really,
it's a small little world.
It is a small world, and like you said, you never know who you can be sitting next to. I remember early days, in past career, at United Airlines, a couple of times being at a bar somewhere, going through a concourse, and somebody would just say, "Hey, Z-Man," and I go, "Well, it's got to be somebody from my Air Force days, or somebody who really knows me well." And sure enough, to be somebody, and I wouldn't recognize him, but he goes, "Hey, we flew against each other. You were a Red Eagle at the time. I remember talking to you at the club, and I think you might have been a MiG-21 at the time. I go, did you gun me? No. Oh, good job, and whatever it was. But
Yeah.
it was always good. So yeah, small world. Yeah.
How was it going to the F-15 after flying the MiG-21 and MiG-23? Is that a world of difference, or?
Oh yeah, as you can imagine. I mean, we say the same thing had I gone to an F-16. It's just like, whoa, okay, got new stuff here, and it was great. But like anything, I'd come out of that not flying anything high tech before, so I didn't. It took me a while to. I mean, I could fly the piss out of the airplane visually, but you get in that radar environment and trying to turn a two-dimensional picture into a 3D into your head. Where's everybody at? And essay, get me to the Merjo, somebody. But before that, took me a while. But they came along, and didn't take long to upgrade to four-ship flight lead and then mission commander. And I don't think I shared this with you. But when I went to Langley. I was in 94th Squadron, hat and ring. And as luck would have it, one of the last Red Eagle deployments before they closed down was the 94th, my squadron, was heading out there to fight against them. I don't know if I shared that with you. So I got to see both ends of it. So I went out there, and we actually got 2 weeks to flying against the Red Eagles. I think it was like 2 weeks before they closed the doors on the program. So we were only supposed to get 1 week flying against them, and then somebody canceled. So one of the guys, Larry Shai Shervanek, who had been my flight commander as a Red Eagle, he was now running kind of the program up at TAC headquarters. TAC at the time. He said, "Hey, Z-Man," he knew I was the project officer. He said, "Hey, somebody canceled. I don't know if it was Bitburg or somebody, but you guys want 2 weeks?" I go, "Absolutely." So I signed us up. So I committed us. So I went to a squadron commander and go, "Hey, hope you don't mind, but I just committed us to 2 weeks." He goes, "Good job." So we went out, all new lieutenants, young captains, whatever. And before we went there, I cleared it with the DO, cleared it with the squadron commander. Wasn't supposed to do this, but I go, "Hey, everyone knew we were going to Nellis. But they just thought we were going to go fight against the aggressors." So the Friday before we went, we were going to deploy on Sunday. Friday before, I cleared with the DO, the wing DO and squadron commander. I go, "Can we have a no kidding, closed door session just here in 94th? And it's only going to be the people that are going." Told them what I wanted to do. I want to give them the briefing that they're going to get on Monday, but I want them to hear it from me. They go, "Absolutely." So I made basically the same briefing that they heard we're going to hear on Monday. And I just basically gave them the, fighter weapons school platform instruction briefing. You're going out there to fight against MiG-21s and MiG-23s. And you saw these guys go, "What the now some of the guys had to know I had flown those, but, to their credit, I've been in a squadron there at that time, God, just a little over a year, maybe 13 months. Yeah, it was like 13 months. So, but during that time, no one in the entire wing, much less a squadron, had ever asked me what it was like to fly a MiG-21 and MiG-23. It was that well kept, or they didn't even want to go there. So I'm sure it was some of both. Anyway, so I give them this, long briefing. Here's the MiG-21. I flew them both. This is what you're going to do. If you listen to what I say, you're going to kick their ass. If you don't listen to what I say, you're going to be on the front end and wishing you had to listen to me. So we went out there, and guys, they did great. And it's not rocket science. It's like, the Eagle can really kick ass even if you start off defensive, but you got to fight it smart. You got to, burn down the energy, then work the vertical. And if you do that, keep sight, you're going to gun that little. And so it was cool to see young captains, young lieutenants. First assignment F-15 said, "Yeah, I start off," and they come back and they got their HUD video, and they just see them go through a minute, turn and a half, 2 turns, and all of a sudden they got the MiG-21, that little tiny son of a, 24 and a half foot wingspan in front of them. They just gun them stitch them up one side down the other. It's great. So cool.
That's awesome.
And I had only asked for 140. I go, "Hey, I've been there, but I do need to prove to myself what I've been telling everybody else." So I went on and had one fight against MiG-21, and the short of it, and this will be in the book too. The guy I said when we broke off, and now he's the instructor, I'm the student. He says, "Do you want to be offensive or defensive?" So there is no self-respecting former Red Eagle flying an Eagle is going to say, "Yeah, I'll take offensive." So I go, "No, I want to be defensive." So I started off, and and I thought, okay, if you get gunsy, man, you're never going to be able to show your face in the squadron or at the bar. So I'll save you the details. But yeah, turn and a half later, I gunned the guy, and
There you go.
I had a little help along the way. Some nice auto acquisition modes using the HUD, using the radar after the guy put himself right in the sun. I go, "You little son of a bitch, I can't believe it." But anyway, worked out good. Worked out good. I didn't embarrass myself, and it was all pretty good.
That's pretty appropriate too, to be right there at the end. Talk about the end of it. Do you have any, I guess, the Cold War is winding down. Is there not a need, or is it too tough to manage, or too tough to supply the program to make it happen? Do you know why it went away?
Yeah, I think it was, one, cost-wise, and I think MiG-21, MiG-23 were no longer the credible threat it had been at its infancy, 8, 9 years earlier when they were first ginning up the program. Now you had MiG-29s, you had flankers out there, things like that. So MiG-21, well, it was still could be a threat out there, as we saw in Desert Storm. Yeah, but wasn't the threat it had been at one point. So cost-wise, I think that had a lot to do with it. The other thing, too, they had some accidents after I'd left. They had two. They had Hawk Carlisle had punched out of MiG-23, so boom, that was one gone, airplane lost. They had another guy punched out of MiG-21. Luckily, no fatalities. Both guys walked away. So if you look on it like the Air Force always does, you look at the loss rate per 100,000 hours, it was off the charts, even though there were only two. So that was enough for them to justify, yeah, let's kill the program. It's not the threat it once was. If we want to get MiG-29s, flankers, kind of leave it at that. They probably could have, and they probably did. But, so they just kind of put it aside. But the benefit is, as we went in just a few years later into Desert Storm, a lot of the people, if you look up and match up names who had been in the 58th, who were in the guerrillas at down there at Eglin and stuff like that, and some of the guys that are out of Bitburg and stuff like that had gotten MiG kills. I actually have to look for myself to see the majority, but a good number of those guys had all gone through constant peg. So they all had exposure to the program, and it was kind of like the epilogue will kind of bear that out. I don't know if I shared that with you yet or not, but anyway, it's kind of puts the cherry. Yeah.
Yeah, you did say that. I was like, I would say cherry on the top there.
Yeah. And it says, hey, what's the value, lessons learned? I mean, Air Force spent a lot of money on that program, maintaining it, but the benefit of it is all those people. I'm sure you knew a lot of guys along the way that, or maybe guys that have been commanders or earlier generation that had the benefit of going through that program before it closed down in the spring of '88. But that was good. In fact, as I talked to some of the people, a lot of guys, weapons officers and stuff, and I'd ask them, what were some of the best programs that helped you the most, getting your MiG kills? And that was always one of the top, right up there. Even some of them, even they say that was even more beneficial than going through weapons school. So, that was it. That was good. I was proud to have been part of the program, and knew a lot of guys that went on and killed MiG. So that was kind of nice.
For the book, so I don't know if you can allude to maybe some tentative dates you think, and then is there anywhere people should be looking for it? Is there a website, or just hover around? I'd like to have you back on when the time comes. We'll obviously let everyone know via this platform, but if people are looking for you other places, where can they do that?
Yeah, right now we don't have any dedicated website that's going to be marketing that thing. I'm sure that'll come in due course. We anticipate first off, the publicist has been after my ass for a long time to finish it. So I promise at the end of this year, you'll have the total manuscript. In fact, I've been trading emails with him in the last several weeks with different chapters and stuff like that, content, format, you name it, photos, things that'll be in the book. And I promise him by the end of this year, it'll be in his hands. And already got a contract for it. It's going to be with Osprey Publishing out of London. And I think that the reason they want the book so much is they already give me some money for it. And I haven't drank the money. It's still there, but they're chewing at the bit to get the thing out because they think it's going to be a good one. So tentatively, to answer your question, we think late 2025 it'll probably be out. And
Okay.
in fact, I think they'd pulled the trigger a little bit early. Somebody had sent me a screenshot on Amazon of the book. I go, wait a minute, the book's not even finished yet. And they had so I real quickly told them, I go, what's this doing on Amazon? And they go, oh, that wasn't supposed to happen yet. So I'm sure it'll be on Amazon when that happens. So that'll be one place. And, they've got some marketing schemes to go out and, go ahead and book tours and stuff like that. But hey, I'm not going to get ahead of ourselves, but thank you for volunteering to do that. You've seen a few of the chapters, so you can attest to what's in it, the content, the style, the narrative, and speak to all those things we already just talked about and a lot of things that we haven't discussed, but they'll be in there.
Yeah, that was good. Well, I think like lighting the rocket, your first flight. I mean, again, for me, I can see myself sitting at the end of the runway, getting ready to take off. And then when you're describing how you're blasting. So I think people are really going to like it. I know I look forward to it. So again, when the time comes, we'll have you back on here and do it again. But I think you said you're willing to hang around and do a There I Was story. So we'll jump over and do that. And Z-Man, I appreciate you joining me on the podcast.
Hey, no problem, Rain. Glad to be here. My pleasure.
15,000. I'll give you some of that.